On today's episode of the Unveil podcast, Brace Harris and I discuss why mindset isn't everything. And actually, we use that topic title as a jumping off point into the Unveil method and how we truly look at clients, their evolution, and our courses and our coach training. We discuss the secret sauce behind the integrative, holistic, transformational, healing and growth journeys that we take our clients on here at Unveil. And we do that through the lens of how to implement cognition in a way that is truly supportive of the healing journey without it seeming like it minimizes the lived experience. We discuss emotional embodiment, somatic awareness and practices and release, and we then put mindset in its rightful place when it comes to your healing and transformational journey. We hope you enjoy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're so excited to have you here. My name is Brace Harris.
And my name's Victoria Fenton.
And we are
Unveil. And we have a poorly Brace.
Oh, yes. Just getting over a little bit of a cold. It's like it's probably a very small common cold. And my I haven't been sick in like basically 2 years. And then the first thing, it's like, boom, you get punched in the face with it. Actually, it was funny. I read an article the other day about, they call it the super cold in Australia, but it's just a regular cold. It just feels so intense because our immune systems are not used to processing stuff like they normally were before we all got locked down. So
it's all right, ladies. We can all agree that it's just man flu. It's fine.
Wait, are you saying that men are wimps?
Right, totally. Have you not yeah.
You know, it's so funny. My mother has always said that about my dad and myself. It's like when like women can literally have pneumonia.
Yeah.
Be pregnant and still get all the housework done and get all the stuff done, and not to pigeonhole everybody, and like you have to do housework, but they can do whatever needs to get done, get the errands done, like they can literally hold it all. And guys, we get a little sniffle and we're like, oh my god, I need some chicken noodle soup, and can you make me a hot water bottle, and I need my tea, and don't bother me for a week.
Yeah. What I haven't told Brace, and I literally haven't told him yet, is that I probably have COVID at the moment.
Are you kidding me?
No. I was just letting you have your moment, love.
Well, I had COVID, and COVID was not.
COVID was fine. Yeah.
Yeah, COVID was like whatever, and then this cold, like kicked me in the teeth. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. So we've just caught up and we're trying to sort of get back on track. So yeah, speaking of track,
yes,
we have this month thus far spoken to you about how to make your mind an ally, and we have spoken to you about how to heal the relationship with the body. So the bigger theme that we have for this week, and it's partly all in the run up to this month, it's partly all in the run up to our workshop, which we'll talk about a bit later, because I apologize if you've been clicking on redirected links that haven't taken you anywhere in the last couple of times we've mentioned it. That's on me. But our workshop, which we have now named Heal Your Nervous System, Change Your Life. And the reason we've done that is because we listened to somebody say to me, you guys are so much more than what we were doing within our original workshop idea. And what we've decided to do, and what I think I've decided to do would be like a really good way to put it, is to actually really be a bit more confident about all of the everything that we do within Unveil, particularly within Unveil Premier. And the whole world of all of this that we'll talk about the workshop and this whole month is all to do with, it's not one thing. It's not your mind. It's not your body. It's not your, this one thing over here. So today we want to talk to you about why mindset isn't everything.
Yes. Why is mindset not everything? Mindset is good, but it's only a small part of a much greater
totality.
There we go. Wow. Whoa.
Even with COVID.
Did everybody just get blown back by that?
So
Amazing.
there's
totality.
Right. I've just been watching this. We were just saying we talk about our like relative Netflix series, and I'm watching something about the ends of the world at the moment. So I'm kind of in singularities and totalities and all that kind of stuff. So
Very nice.
But yes. So, and actually this was your idea. And what we might start doing, and this was Brace's idea, because we were talking about all the topics that we want to cover over the course of the year. And Brace's brilliant idea was that why mindset isn't everything could actually be a part of each one of those topics that we talk about, because it's really common, particularly in our coaching space, to believe that you can just think your way through things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, like a lot of people are taught that. And a lot of that is, and I use this in a very loving way, sold to people. It's like, hey, if you just start these practices, then everything will shift as far as the way that I think about stuff. And it's very, very important. But like, you were saying, it's a smaller part of a whole. And we want to get into the whole.
And I want to start by saying
of
to
all
people,
of it.
yeah. And I just want to start by saying to people, like, if you feel like you haven't been successful in your inner journey thus far, have you just been trying to fix your thoughts? Have you just been trying to mindset your way through things? I mean, there are very famous coaches who have phrases which say, change your mindset, change your life, which is kind of why we've named our workshop, Heal Your Nervous System, Change Your Life, because it's bigger than mindset. And I literally have banned clients before from having mantras around their house, or those like little Instagram memes that are like positive mental attitude things, because they tend to breed this kind of sense of, oh, I'm not doing it right, or oh, if only I could like believe hard enough. And the whole manifestation thing, the kind of the secret energy, it's like, if only you just believed it enough, it would happen.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, it drove me crazy, especially early on in my work.
Yeah.
People would be like, well, you don't believe in yourself and you don't think positive things. And it's like, there's so much influencing what I think. It's like, I can't get rid of those things, which led me even deeper into the work and the somatic. And this is where we start pulling together, mindset can take you up to a point, just like talk therapy can take you up to a point. It's like, there's so many other aspects of us because we're not one-dimensional beings. We have so many facets that create who we are and how we move through the world. And to only focus on one side of that and ignore all the others, it's like taking a sports car. And it's like, okay, we're only going to change the oil. We're not going to mess with the oil filter, which is absolutely essential. We're not going to change any of the other fluids. We're only going to focus on the oil. The car might run
that example.
Okay.
I'm just going to interrupt you because I really love that example, because you used oil and oil filter, and it's the perfect analogy to help you understand. And we spoke about this in your mind, make your mind an ally episode. Your thoughts are a manifestation of other things. They are a secondary. So if you're trying to top down stuff all the time, top down change things, sometimes it's really powerful. And I don't want to trash mindset work. We will get there. I had a whole branch of my business at one point, which was mindset medicine, because it's really important. But that's much more about how you receive things, not your general mindset 24/7. And if you can just think your way through a problem. And I think that the oil and oil filter thing is a perfect one, because it's like, what influences your mindset? And is there something that's preventing you just from changing it? Is there something that makes that an effortful process where you have to consciously think about the way you should be thinking? And then it just gets really, like, as I said, effortful. Like, nothing that we do with our clients is effortful. Like, we don't want our clients having like the 39-step morning routine and the 42-step evening routine and the 75 mantras and the alarms on their phone. It's like, it's just not how we do it at Unveil.
Well, and I don't think that that's really necessarily, and a lot of people may disagree, an efficient way. It's almost like we're having to force ourselves to be that way until potentially maybe it becomes a habit.
Right.
And let's find the way that your body naturally moves information for you. Let's find the easy way. I'm always about efficiency and doing it the easiest way. We don't have to force. Yeah, some of those things might help us get to a deeper understanding of ourselves, some of those practices, but there's way more to it, guys. There's way more to it. And I think that's what we want to get into today.
Yeah. And my coach said to me yesterday, let it be simple. And I was like, have you met me? As she tries to build a 64-step automation sequence. Because for me,
let it be simple.
Let it be simple. For me,
love that.
And this is the thing, and this is what I endeavor to do all the time within my work. And it's like I've had, we're building some about pages on our website where you're getting a bit more of a sense of me and a bit more of a sense of Brace at the moment. And in writing mine, it's like writing this kind of like 2 decades of like trying to work something out and process. And my goal in life is to avoid anyone else having to take 20 years to do it. So my whole mission within Unveil is distilling the essences of all of the breadth that I've done and continue to do into the salient points to take home for you that I can take you through as a coach, Brace can take you through as a coach, other coaches we're going to train to do it, but also at the workshop, like we're going to try and deliver you in 2 days a system for you to actually think about all of these multi-layered realities when it comes to the whole human organism. And so this why mindset isn't everything, I want to be more general than we will make it in future. So like there's all sorts of areas that you can go specific and granular, like money mindset. Mindset isn't everything about money, even if you're really good at money mindset. There's so many things that we can expand to. But today we're really going to take a kind of, okay, so if mindset isn't everything, what else is relevant angle on the conversation?
Yes. Oh, I thought you were asking yourself that question.
No,
or posing a rhetorical.
I thought you were going to then say, okay, Victoria, so what else is relevant?
Okay, Victoria, so what else is relevant?
Oh, man. So essentially, we talk about 4 things. And there's a 5th, and I'll explain that. So we talk about the body as an organism physiologically. That's super important. The mind is important, but from a cognitive framework standpoint, not a what mindset do I need to adopt to change things. And understanding your cognitive framework is really important to know how to leverage mindset tools. And people forget that. People just go, oh, what you think is X, and what you must think to get X is Y. Whereas it's actually the way you think is really important, and what frameworks you're using to compute that, massively important. Then there's the emotional piece. So emotions are people get confused about what emotions are, because we have our primary emotions, happy, sad, angry, but we also have a lot more secondary emotions. It's not quite the way to describe it, but they're kind of secondary functions, like feeling a bit is an emotion, and people don't validate it as such. And it's like the embodiment of that, how much do you let that live and breathe inside you, is supremely important. Because if your mind setting over here but your emotional state over here is a bit meh, it's like pulling in 2 separate directions. And it's not necessarily about changing your emotional state, just to be clear, and we'll go into more detail as we get through it. It's much more about like understanding that it exists and validating it and allowing it to be is a huge bit. And then you've got the kind of more spiritual piece, and the bit where we go, okay, so you're not an island on your own. You've got a lot of influences from the world around you, from people, from energy, from consciousness, from all of the things. So all of it matters, but it's not very useful for us to sit here and say, so think about it all and be on your way. So I'm going to try and work with Brace to make it a bit more kind of linear for you to think through in terms of how to think about what impacts what. Because the 5th thing that I didn't mention, but the 5th thing is the interplay between all of those four things. So it's not about what any one of them is doing. It's about how all of them are continually talking to one another to influence everything, including your actual mindset. And if you're trying to leverage the mind tool, it's powerful. It has a direct link into the nervous system, which can retrofit quite a lot, but it can't get over the physiological underpinnings. It cannot always move through emotional restrictions. There's a somatic layer within that emotional body layer, which is really important in terms of where's your body holding things. And then it becomes that you can't, like I say, you can't retrofit a perspective, and you cannot choose your emotions.
Yeah, I mean, so basically would you say it is about finding the balance between all of the systems?
I love that you've said that and gone there, because I struggle to know fully whether it's about the balance between all of the systems or about knowing which one to pay attention to at any one moment in time. And the more I do this work, the more I think it's that latter. Yeah, sorry, carry on. I interrupted.
No. Well, this kind of image came into my mind because, I mean, I'm sure for some people listening out there, they're like maybe a little bit overwhelmed. It's like, oh my God, that's so much, when I can just focus on one thing and then, I'm managing and I'm feeling better about it. I just see the guy, the plate spinner guy, right? And everybody
keeps
always
going around to
yeah. And like everybody always has this image, especially when you're like, oh, I feel like I'm just spinning plates, of this guy like frantically running back and forth. But honestly, for the plate spinner guy, he's not in a frantic state. He is actually watching his plates. He knows how to spin them to make them last. He's not running around like a crazy person. He has practiced, he is focused, like he has taken time with each one of these plates, and how he spends it is going to make it move well, and then he can adjust accordingly his technique depending on what is necessary for the spinning of said plates.
Great analogy. Great. No, seriously, okay. That was great. No. And it is great.
He's actually in a very zen, calm place. Yeah.
Right. And I also love that analogy again, because to build off it, it's not very calm when he's starting it off. Like he's trying to get that plate moving and then he's got to go and get the other one moving. And it's like that first, when he's setting everything up, it isn't
It gets
easy.
chaotic.
It's chaotic. It isn't smooth. It takes effort. He's got to pay more attention to the groundwork. But over time,
comes up.
Yeah, right. Yes. Yeah. Oh my God, am I going to do it this time?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So there's this isn't complicated. It's complex because human physiology is complex, but it isn't complicated. Yeah. And what we're doing at the moment, if you're following along with the Unveil family and what we're kind of building, is there are tons of resources that we are trying to create to give you the opportunity to create your own roadmaps without having to come to coaches like us. And what will be live by the time this podcast is released is another video. This one's all from me, and it's all about how I design my premier packages for my clients and how I tie things together and what I'm thinking about. And there is an accompanying 22-page PDF, which is education of what all matters. And it is also a guidebook for you, so you can ask yourselves questions about what you're doing. And that's going to be available. And if you're on YouTube, it's going to flash up on the screen what the link is, because I actually don't know yet. So like, it'll be something like, oh no, I do know. It's unveilenterprises.com/transformation guide is what it is. I have built it. Yes. So if you go to that email, come on, Brace, web address. I'm blaming COVID. Then you will be able to download the PDF and watch the video. We'll also email it to you, so you've got it to refer back to, and you can play with it and you can have a think about it all, because this shouldn't feel like it's an uphill struggle. So that will be a massive accompaniment to what this podcast is going to now take you into. And that will allow you to do some self-inquiry, because all of this stuff isn't one thing. These are signals and symptoms, not universal symbols of this means this. So you need to work within your own self to understand. Sorry, if you can see a fly on my screen. It's been a rare, nice Good Friday in the UK. And so I have my doors open and there's one big black fly that I just saw fly across my screen. So I apologize for that. But yeah, it's let's just get started into stuff, Brace. Let's talk about the human body, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay. So the reason why mindset isn't everything when it comes to all of this is because your mindset is dependent on your brain's health at that moment in time. And your brain's health at any one moment in time is dependent on so many things about your actual physiology. Like we had the whole conversation at the beginning of today's session when we came online together of, did we want to record this podcast today? Because how is Brace's brain doing given that it's full of cold? And we all take that for granted. We know our brain works slower when we're ill, but we don't recognize that it always happens every single day. How much sleep have you had? How much nutrition have you been fed? Has it been regular or has it been kind of skewy? Have you eaten loads of carbs? Have you eaten loads of protein? What's your body trying to do with what you've given it? Have you worked out today? Have you moved? Are you keeping moving? Like, it's not rocket science how to stay healthy, but we don't always do it. And we don't always remember to recognize that we haven't done it, particularly the sleep thing, when we're trying to leverage some kind of mindset hack halfway through the next day. It's like, oh, if only I can willpower my way through this project. It's like, you didn't sleep. So you're never going to have that success in that moment. And so understanding the physiology from a rudimentary perspective is sort of important. And the reason I say it like that is because everybody thinks it's really important. And it isn't. So the human body is really resilient. It can cope with quite a lot of flux during longer periods of time. It's not one day is the kind of death knell for the human physiology and your resilience. It's you've got weeks, you've got months to like not treat things particularly well, and the human body can bounce back. What I'm interested when it comes to nutrition and exercise and all that kind of stuff is a variety of things, but what I'm asking my clients is their intentionality when it comes to food. How much thought have they put into it? Is it an afterthought? How much are they taking care of themselves versus not? And the reason that's relevant is because how we take care of ourselves is a deep signal to ourselves how much we value ourselves. And that is way beneath the layer of kind of thought processes, but we are giving ourselves a subtle signal every moment of the day if we're kind of not really thinking hard enough about food, or we have that habit that we have the chocolate at 4 p.m. every day and we don't really feel good about it, but we kind of can't stop it. This is all emotional content around physiological stuff and also mindset content around physiological stuff. So you can start to see how these things tie together. Does that make sense, Bryce?
Absolutely. And I'm definitely deferring to you because this is definitely your area of expertise, because you had so many years doing it.
Absolutely. No, it's yeah. And developing
I'm just going to state things
but
very
developing
simply.
a way of think about it. And I think people who are new to Unveil but have known me for a while will know this, but people who are new to Unveil but haven't known me for a while don't realize that my history is very much looking at problems from an orthogonal point of view. So looking from the outside, trying to find another angle, basically because all of the ways that people told me to fix myself didn't work. And all of the ways that they told me to support my physiology and my mindset and my emotions and all that kind of stuff actually made the problem worse because they were coming at it from the wrong angle. So when we go into all of the complexity that we're doing today, that's in the PDF, that's in the video that I talk about, the complexity is because what we're actually looking at is what affects the nervous system. And the reason we're looking at that is because the nervous system is the master controller of absolutely everything in the human body. It's literally telling you how to make sense of the inputs, where to take them, how to make sense of what your body's doing at any one moment in time, and how to marshal a correct and appropriate response to the environment.
Yep. And I want to make something clear for our listening audience here, is that the nervous system doesn't stop at the brain. And I think I've said this before, like so many times, we're like, okay, what I think is the thing. And it's like, no, the nervous system moves down into the body. And for some reason, we tend to ignore what we're feeling. And anything that's the neck down, we kind of put that as secondary. And it's like, my thoughts are the most powerful. The way that I'm thinking about this or that, it's like, slow that down, because your thoughts are not necessarily you.
And your thoughts are super powerful though. So this is why
Yeah,
mindset
they
comes
are.
up. So let's
And
go there now. Because this is why mindset comes up. Because your nervous system basically is sending feedback from your body to your brain, from all your senses to your brain, and then out from your brain to all of your organs and limbs and things to do the thing that it wants you to do in response to the inputs that it's had come in. What's really important is to recognize that when you're playing with mindset, you're essentially changing the way the brain is framing how it's receiving the inputs and therefore what it's going to do with the outputs. It's a really good strategy, because if you're always having a knee-jerk reaction to somebody cutting you up in a road situation, but you have the mindset of, oh, I'm just going to think that they're always going somewhere in a hurry, and if I put that mindset in, I'm going to keep that mindset there. And what that does is it means that when you're in traffic and somebody cuts into your lane again, you have that instant reaction physically, but you talk it down with a mindset thought of, they must be going somewhere in a hurry. It's great. It's management. It's like CBT. It's like, oh, I'm going to have that reaction and I'm going to talk it down in a way that I feel comfortable doing with a rationalization. It's really important that we have these things, because it's not always safe for us to express our reactions that are more instinctive and more physiological. And we'll come back onto that in a second. But that physiological reaction, once it's talked down, goes somewhere. And so this is why I don't love mindset hacks, because whilst in a road rage situation, I would absolutely not want you to get into reactive nervous system trigger and trying to chase the guy down in the car and flipping fingers and all that kind of stuff. It's not necessary and it's not appropriate. But in global other stuff, it's really important to understand that our physiological instinctive reactions need to be heard. They need to be at least acknowledged by our brain. Even if we then reframe, it's definitely relevant that we experience that reactivity, because it tells us something. It tells us so much. In a car situation, it tells us that we were frightened because we had to do a shock adaptive maneuver that was quite alarming for our system. But there's a million and one other examples of this where we mindset our way through things instead of actually going through them. And I really didn't want to do this podcast in a linear way. And this is the point where I'm going to take it off going through all the systems. And I'm going to talk to you about that whole thing. And I'm going to say, this is the problem with the coaching world. So it's a huge problem with the coaching world that we regulate a lot. We have a lot of tools for regulation. We can breathe people through things. We can calm people down. We can even somatically touch people and regulate. We can co-regulate, use our nervous systems as a coach to regulate the other person in the room or over Zoom. You can actually very easily calm things down, because we were kids once and we learned that calming down is what mummy and daddy basically wanted us to do, / essential caregivers. And we are very good at feeling an emotion come up and breathing through it, or feeling the tears come to our eyes and going, I can't cry now. We're very good at that. And as coaches, we are very good at giving our clients tools to support them to do those kinds of things. And that's useful. Again, like the mindset reframe, it's useful. But what it denies is the expression and the experience of that emotion. And it's not enough, my dear coach friends, to say, oh, everything is welcome. Because if you're saying everything is welcome with a smile to reassure when somebody's in fear, anger, depression, and all of that, you are not meeting your client where they need to be met. You're meeting them with a pacifier. And it's really important to get this as coaches, because we cannot just go around making it okay, reframing people's language to make them feel okay about the way they talk about things. This is not coaching. It's actually literally the definition of trauma, suppressing somebody's natural emotional response in any way. So that's why mindset and all of the talk it down and think it through and reframe isn't really healthy in its entirety. It is very important as a cognitive recalibration, but that has to be systemic. It has to come from the physiology as well as the emotional embodiment, as well as that connection piece, as well as. Have I made sense there, Brace? Because that's a really important thing for me to have said.
Yes, absolutely. If we are continuing to, we always want to be in this kind of homeostasis, like kind of place. It's like, we just need to find that balance, you know, be in the homeostasis. I just want to be calm. And so we breathe through, we are ignoring the signals. It's like, if I need to breathe through something, why am I needing to breathe through something to begin with? And yes, the breathing can help you calm so that you can think more clearly. But if you stop it there, we're like, okay, I'm calm now, I'm just going to go about my day, then you're basically blue balling yourself. You're blue balling yourself. And because it's so, and sorry to use that phrase, but it was the one thing that came to my mind. I don't know why, maybe because of the man flu, but to stop there, we're selling ourselves short. Yes, those things are good techniques, but you have to continue on with the process. That's only get you so far. So we didn't get all the way to the end of.
Yeah. And again, carefully inserting the caveats. If you find emotional embodiment difficult, you need a coach. If you find letting emotions live inside you difficult, you need a coach, because I am paying somebody at the moment to help me with this very piece of emotional embodiment, because I had to, for my survival, suppress all of my emotions for a decade. And that has massive consequences on my physiology, my mindset, my behavior in the now, my ability to even feel things. I am so good at regulating and reframing that you've watched me. You'll see like real emotion come into my body and it's gone, because I can just move myself away from it, because that's what I learned was safe. And I need someone to help me change that. I can't do that myself because I don't feel safe. So when I allow emotions to grow inside me, I don't feel safe. So I will automatically suppress them. So it's about having a professional there to gradually take you to where it's safer and safer and safer. And it's a very slow, very infinitesimal process that you have to find somebody trained in this work to do with you and alongside you, because they're watching your cues to know when you're safe. Which brings us on to, what cues are they watching? Because it's really visible in your body when you're doing all of this stuff, because all of this is physiological as well as it's mental, as well as it's emotional. And so when we're talking about somatics that you mentioned earlier, like what I'm talking about when I say I'm very good at regulating is I have a somatic memory of shutting everything down and dissociating regularly, repeatedly for a decade, like I've just said. And so when you have that as your safety mechanism, it becomes a default pattern. So for me, even when joy and happiness come up, I am quickly shutting that down to try and protect myself from the quantity of the emotion. It's not anything to do with the type of it. It's the quantity of feeling, physiological feeling. And so for me, when you're talking about that, you've got an emotional content that is being protected by a somatic trauma imprint protective mechanism, which literally is a nervous system valve that just goes shut down. You go into essentially complicated science, but dorsal vagal areas of nervous system function. It's a safety mechanism. And our bodies have all of these valves because we need them. Because if I was truly in a threatening situation where feeling the true fear of, I don't know, some guy running at me with a knife is absolutely essential so I can run really far in the opposite direction, I need to have my kind of ability to do that. But if I'm kind of trying to suppress it all, and I would probably right now, I always try to minimize threats in my environment. It's a funny thing to recognize when you start to break this apart and think, why do I react the way that I do? What am I holding? And where is it? Is it physiological? Is it emotional? Is it mental? Is it, spiritual? And always it's all of those things, because if you're shut down in one area, it will affect every single other area. And you may, just to finalize the kind of scientific bit on that, you may not be shut down in the same way in every single area. There's this complicated physiology underneath this, but you will underconnect and overconnect in certain ways in terms of what is online and what you shut down and what you take offline. And when you think about that, it's like my mindset is not useful for me when I am in a threatening situation, because my mindset is being fueled by my somatic stored memory of shut down to keep you safe. So what my mindset does when I experience an emotion is I will almost talk my way through in my head to the resolution of that emotion very quickly. So my mindset is actually doing me a disservice. And if I was to change my mindset, my body has symptoms. It stresses out. It's like, no, we don't want to feel. Have you not got it yet, mind? We don't want to feel that thing. And you just create like, it's like a hot front and a cold front meeting, and you just create a storm. And it's so the only way to work with it is together and slowly. And what I'm talking about here, guys, is complex trauma. So like, you don't need to always do it this extremely.
Yeah. Well, that was going to be my next question. I'm sure we have a lot of listeners that maybe not have had a complex trauma. So how do they move through something that just feels like a little bit of a sticking place, but not something that kind of controls an entire like behavior toward a stimulus, I guess?
Great question. And what I invite people into when things seem more minor is, where are they seeking safety, and what is their body, brain, emotional pattern, and spiritual connection, which we can talk on more in a second, doing to ensure their safety. So whilst I had major trauma, which said I'm unsafe, a lot of people have more minor traumas, which are much more about how to fit into a social setting. So in order to fit into this social setting, I need to XYZ. And that is another safety mechanism. And that always, it tends to lead to suppression as well. It tends to lead to a type of shutdown. So it's much more about looking at how we are in social settings, how we are in familial settings, how do we behave in conflict? Because that's where we'll see our patterns. And it's like, where are we defaulting into suppressing a part of ourselves to make sure that we don't stand out? We're not too loud. We don't offend anybody with our whatever, and this is where the high performer coaching comes in, because so much of the time I'm dealing with clients who are just not quite stepping into their true majesty, basically. And the reason is because they learn very young that being loud, brash, confident, whatever, wasn't okay. It wasn't safe. They were punished for it. And so what we're dealing with there is this absolute mindset that wants to hard charge out the door and be the super high achieving, 7-figure business, but something internally is self-sabotaging. And so is there an area in your life where you're self-sabotaging? Is there something that's happening? And it can look like it's just in one area, but realistically, it will have a theme back to something that's happened previously in your life. And so if you're kind of having those problems where it's like, oh, no matter how I think about it, I can't get through it, just do a life audit. Just do your own life audit. We've talked about this before. Go back and think, what was safe for me when I was a child? How did I find safety? How did I fit into my family unit? What did I have to do? What was accepted and loved and appreciated? Where did I have to feel, or not have to, where did I feel I had to compromise?
That's a big distinction. Where did I feel that I had to? And then all of a sudden it kind of just became who I was.
It became who I was. And so that perspective,
so the unbecoming.
Unbecoming, unveil the things, unbecome the things.
Yeah.
And it is absolutely, I mean, we talk about this on our workshop page. We talk about this in our coaching. Everything we do at Unveil is about removal, not addition. So we're not interested in giving you a strategy. We're interested in looking at the strategies you already have and taking them away from you. I mean, that's a bit brutal.
Well, exploring them, seeing why they're there. Are they even necessary anymore? It's like, and if it feels unsafe to let those go, why might that be? Let's ask a bunch of really great questions in a super safe container where we can really, really explore you. as a human being, and not judge it, not blame ourselves. Let's just look at everything. Let's just really get in there and look at everything. I mean, which comes back, it's like, how do we think? How do we feel? What's our spiritual connection? Like, how is our body, functioning? There's so many things that we get to look at and explore within ourselves. And by doing so, then we start to open those gates of like insight into who we are, why we are, what we are. Oh, I blame myself forever for this, and I didn't even have to. What? That's crazy. It's like, there you go.
And that Brace has just absolutely nailed where the mindset piece is fundamental, because understanding and insight is not a striven for, effortful process. It's an aha, it's an awakening. It's like you slam into a door of realization, and it in and of itself liberates a nervous system pathway, which is why we do it all. Like, there has to be that essence of, and I truly, and like, if you've coached with me, you know this, like, I will explain what I'm doing as I'm doing it and after I've done it. And it's not because I believe that the method is important. It's because understanding does something else to your physiology. It does something else to the whole pattern of everything. And if you have that insight, yes, it's really useful for your brain not to be stuck on that thing anymore. But you know what it's like when you feel an insight. You feel that everywhere in your body. It's not a brain thing.
Yep.
And that's why the whole kind of process is, it's iterative. And that's why I liked the plate spinner analogy, because that insight is one plate over here, and suddenly that means that the plate spinner's done that, and he's free to go and like spin that plate over there to help that bit heal. And this isn't just about insights. If you physiologically work with people who are working with the somatics, if anybody's done it, you're shutting your eyes, you're in the unconscious, subconscious, you're talking about shapes and colors and random shit. I didn't mean to swear. I apologize. COVID. I'm blaming COVID. So yeah, you're talking about random stuff, and you end up having a powerful, energetic release that has nothing to do with your thought process. Often doesn't make sense to your mind, even though you may be getting imagery. It doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, and then things just start to unlock. Yes. Because you have that space open now. Like you literally have made space for more insight, for more understanding for yourself. It's beautiful.
And then the bit that we haven't spoken about yet is that connection piece. And it's the bit that interacts with the world around us that we tend to forget. So there are studies which prove that social connection is far more important than any of the things that we just mentioned. And in fact, trauma, Peter Levine would say, and I'm not sure I 1000% agree with him, but Peter Levine would say that trauma is what happens when the trauma is experienced and there is no social support there. There is no one there to talk to about it and to regulate alongside. So in the absence of an empathetic witness is what he calls it. And that's all about connection, because the human physiology is designed to interlock with other people, other things, and something outside of it. And so there's also studies which prove, and just to finish this like connection piece, that the influence of prayer, religious prayer, I don't know that they've done denominational and tried to work out which, just prayer as an investment of hope for cancer patients, the outcomes in cancer patients who have been prayed for is improved. So there is definitely something happening that is all about our connection to the outside world.
Well, and I think it also is feedback for your nervous system that it's okay to feel those feelings, those emotions, though, like whatever you're moving through, to be witnessed. And in a time like one of my clients, so often there would be emotion that would definitely be present, and he would try to move through it or push through it, and we would sit, and I would, it's okay, let the emotion come. It's important that you feel it in front of someone else, to know, for the nervous system to take in that data, that it's okay to feel, period. It's like that's safety as well.
Precisely. That's exactly what I was about to say. It's like what you're doing when you are witnessed being emotional and when you're processing with another is realizing the safety and the things that you've held inside you, fearing that they made you or were unsafe. And again, that's where religion comes in. It's where that connection to consciousness of any description, faith, everything like that comes in, because being in a human vehicle is very weird. Just be honest about it. There's all this stuff that if you're listening to this podcast right now, you're probably listening to it because you don't fully understand your own experience. And you don't fully understand the human condition, and you don't fully understand how to maneuver through this life. That's why people like Brace and I exist. And like, yes, all we're talking about is my 20 years of study of trying to work it all out. I don't know. And at the times when I don't know, I go, thanks, universe. And it helps because it makes me feel safe, because it makes that kind of like really universe come into this kind of like, it's got to be happening for a reason. Like the whole extended stay in the UK, like the amount of stuff that's shifted since I've been here is mind blowing. And it wouldn't have happened had I been back in LA already. And that I did not find that easy to trust at the time. And so that's a really good example, actually, to just explain to you how to do all of this in sequence when something goes wrong in your life. It would have been really negative for me to go, oh, it's okay, everything happens for a reason, I'm okay. And I tried, but my body was not okay. I was feeling things. And I was really, and for me, feeling things at this moment in time is just like off. I just felt off. That was about as much as I could say. And I had a bitch about it to you, not very strongly, but I was like, ugh. And then all of that was really necessary for me to feel the feelings. If I'd have been sitting there going, oh, just appreciate the universe has a greater plan for me, that would have been negating my real physiological experience.
Yeah. A little bit of bypassing, maybe.
Right. And so the process has to be knowing cognitively all the things that you're trying to like hold on to, because they're your rudder and your anchor, allowing your body to go through the emotional process, allowing all those feelings to come up and move through and that will happen over and over again on a cycle. Looking after yourself physiologically in those moments, taking care of your body, resting when it's saying rest, because you've just gone through a shock of whatever that is. And then eventually, when it feels right, get to the reframe, get to it's not even a reframe at that point. And that's the thing about reframe. If it's feeling like a reframe, it's a reframe. If it's feeling like it's a different way of thinking about it, and that feels actually where my head
that resonates.
That's the thing. I like that. I've never thought about that before, but yeah, it shouldn't ever feel like a reframe.
Yeah, it resonates. It just feels like the truth.
That's what I'm seeing as my truth now. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I eventually got to, this is happening for a reason. Now let's just sit back. And then things have moved. So that's why this is not just about mindset, because if I'd have tried to like lever arch a mindset into my headspace, I'd have traumatized myself basically. And it's a fancy way of saying, and it sounds really serious and melodramatic, but it's actually what happens. You are literally saying what you feel isn't worth anything because I think differently with my brain. That's not okay to do to yourself.
No, and I don't even think it's melodramatic. Just to say that it's melodramatic is almost like something trying to wiggle its way through, perhaps to kind of play it down. But honoring what you're feeling and what you are going through is the ultimate gift that you can give yourself. Honoring yourself, allowing your emotion, allowing that connection, really digging in and learning, like continuing to explore that connection piece that we talked about. All of these things are ways of massively honoring yourself. And if you continue to do that, like, and the honor, like when I say it, it will resonate. You will know when you are honoring yourself and when you are not. And when the brain is really clever and slick and it's kind of talking you out of, oh, I shouldn't think that, or, oh, these people have it worse than me, or however, or that little, thing that may have come through there where it's melodramatic, because it's not. It deserves its place. It deserves to be seen, and it's such a beautiful thing, and we never want to take that away from any experience that we have.
And I love that you went there. The reason I said melodramatic, and Brace has made the point perfectly, I said melodramatic about using the word traumatized because people don't like using the word traumatized. So I said maybe traumatized is melodramatic. The reason I say that is to make everyone feel okay about using the word traumatized. And what Brace has just said explains that point perfectly. It's like it is traumatizing yourself if you're going to push those feelings down. And you don't need to not say the word trauma because somebody else is having a bigger trauma over there.
You don't have to apologize for it. Not anymore.
And if
not
you feel
in this
uncomfortable
space.
with the word trauma, you can just say, suppression. But what you're actually doing is essentially denying a fundamental element of yourself, and that is your emotional reality. And that is the whole key here. You are not safe, so you deny an element of yourself. So the whole goal for everything I'm doing with my coaching is to make it safe for people to be everything that they are. It's what we do. And it isn't about controlling anything. It's about realizing that everything that you've chosen to suppress, to keep small, to have as a habit to keep you going around in circles is there because at one time it was an adaptation strategy that made sense. And
it may not even, it may not even be something that makes you feel small. It may be that workaholic thing. It's like, oh, success. As long as I'm successful, I can ignore all the other things. So there's not just, one thing out there, guys. Like really look at yourself, look at your life, honestly.
Oh, it's the biggest problem with these kind of strategies. They're perceived successful on the surface, all of them. All of them, and I can't begin to explain to you because it would turn into a personal counseling session. But like all of the things that I'm seeing from me, which are just coping strategies at this moment in time, I literally have thrown myself into a coaching container to deconstruct them all. But it's quite entertaining for me to just go, oh, really? That one too? Oh my goodness, that one too? But it's interesting because it looks on the surface.
I was just going to say, go.
It looks on the surface like there is a deep consequence to stepping back to break down the patterns that are perceived successful and that are functioning on the surface. But what I really want you to question is the word functioning. So what looks like it's functioning from the perspective of success, money, whatever it is one level, and what looks like it's successful what looks like it's functional from a physiological resonant perspective is a very different thing. So when I tune into how functional I am, it doesn't matter how much I can do and achieve and all of the things on the surface. I know within me I have functionality that I have not yet accessed. And so what I'm doing is saying, okay, let's break down the functionally successful strategies because they're coming from a place of shaky foundations and running on fumes, so I can build more functional strategies that don't have consequences internally and physiologically. Ultimately, it's about which of those habits and strategies can I leverage in the appropriate time rather than them being my default. And that's how to integrate the strategy that you found with the human that you are now. And that's really advanced somatic coaching stuff that we've just opened the door to in your kind of world, dear listeners. But that's the goal. It's break down all of the attachments to the strategies. Then how can I understand them as an energetically different thing? And how can I build other support systems within my physiology, emotions, cognition, somatic body connections? And then how do I integrate those strategies as part of who I am, but not the driving force between how I keep myself safe? And I need to say that again. How do you integrate those strategies as part of who you are, not the driving force that keeps you safe?
Beautifully said.
Just explained like coaching in a nutshell.
No, it's beautiful. And I think it man, there's just so many things that I want to say, but it's like, but I need to say this in order to say this, and they need to understand this part in order. But it's just, so you are a perfect example of what really moving through something looks like. And yours is, in my opinion, on a macro, like much bigger, more complex scale, which actually gives us as students of the discipline, I think a much easier layout of what we're looking at. And when you say that your journey has taken, as long as it has, 17 years, pretty much, and being able to take all of that time spent and those slow, small moves that you've kind of had to self-teach, and then be able to consolidate all of that and help clients move through things, not necessarily much quicker because that's the goal, but to be able to do it efficiently in a very safe space, that there is an advanced learning that happens, I feel like, from the client's perspective, because they don't have to trial and error themselves. They're being guided and mentored through this process. But what you were saying earlier about, I'm like, oh, that too. And then, oh, that thing is coming up too. Oh, and that's a strategy. Oh, and that's another thing. But being able to do that now without judging yourself, without really, it's like you are like fascinated by yourself. And
let me just make this really clear to the listeners. Half of me is fascinated by myself.
Okay.
Half of me last night was literally sitting there with my coach going, but who am I? And it becomes, and not from an interesting perspective, from a, oh my God, can I really coach people if all of this is strategy? And he had to coach me through that. So I love this not judgment thing, but not judgment comes after judgment. Like, people recognize this. Like, you can, this is where mindset's great. You experience the judgment and then you talk yourself out of it. Hoping to be non-judgmental totally is almost impossible. So because we're human and we have attachments to our own selves and particular identities. So when I'm like there deconstructing all of my habits and patterns, all of the good ones as well as all of the bad ones, I'm like, it's okay, Victoria. There will be someone on the other side of this, even if it's not who you thought you were. But yes, thank you for the compliment that I'm curious, because I am. But I don't want to sugarcoat for our listeners. Like, the judgment does come up.
Oh yeah. Well, the judgment, I think, is necessary for the evolution.
Yeah.
It's like, because our judger is the one that really kind of ignites some of those really darker 100%. Feelings about ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, without the judger, we wouldn't even know that we were moving through something. Yeah.
And I think what I have that people might not have, and actually I was discussing this with my coach last night, it's like, I'm very quick at this because I've been doing it for a very long time. So he was having to say to me, like, you're about 6 months into the process when we're about like a month into the process. It's like, that's kind of where, just because I'm so familiar with myself and the territory. But that makes it harder in some ways, because I'm a little bit attached to the person that I've become, because I've decided to like put my stake in the ground and move to America and set up this big business and all that kind of thing. And it's much more difficult when your identity's bigger to go, oh no, I'm just going to volunteer for my ego death and deconstruction again. Thanks very much. It's hard. And when I left you in LA, and I was going, we could feel it. It was palpable that Victoria was about to kind of go on a 40 days and 40 nights pilgrimage into the wilderness kind of thing. That's how it felt. And with all the twists and turns and changes of things, that's how it's been. And the only thing in this process that I credit myself for is the willingness to do it.
There you go. That's huge. Everyone listening, the willingness to do it.
And I always will, Brace. Like, if I have a new identity at the end of this, and then in 5 years' time, I'm like, it's more strategies developed to keep me safe. At that point, you and I are going to have another wilderness adventure.
That's great. we continue the evolution.
Mm. Mm. And I don't know when it stops. I wish it would stop because I'm tired. But this is a really important one for me. This is kind of like a tying a little bow on the whole experience that I've been through. Yeah, and it's funny actually because it's Easter weekend this weekend, and we remember a lot of my illness around an Easter. So when I first got sick, it was 2004 Easter. So what's that, 18 years ago? And I, at that point, wasn't eating anything and literally sat all weekend. And in the UK over Easter weekend, we have the World Snooker Championships. And I used to watch snooker because my granddad watched snooker. And we always remember when it happens because I just watched snooker all day. And if you've ever watched snooker, and I don't think Americans know snooker, anyway, it's, you know, like pool, but proper. But it's hours of games, and it went on to the next day. It was supposed to finish, and it just kept. It was a big year, and so this time of year is very important for me in terms of every year at this time something important is happening. So yeah, and I'm now 18 years down the line, and still here I am, Easter weekend, actually bookended with sessions with my own coach, which is all very strange. But the universe provides.
Yeah. Very nice. Very nice.
So if we've made that sound super complex, go to unveilenterprises.com/transformation guide, because the video isn't an hour. It's 20 minutes or so. And I'm talking through all of this and how to integrate stuff. But the workbook is going to be invaluable. I talk you through emotional embodiment and expansion, which is like a technique that I use with my clients. I walk you through somatic awareness. We've also put a sneaky link in there to another video from a lesson in one of our course modules. I didn't tell you that, Brace. I put your because Brace takes everyone through a somatic awareness practice, which we've popped into that. We've popped a link into that PDF for you.
Yummy.
Because I just can't stop giving stuff away.
No, that's okay. That's okay. It's beautiful. Because I think the more that we give, the more people get to experience, and
always.
And they continue to feel safer and safer and safer and safer, which is always the ultimate goal, period. Mm-hmm. As far as mindset goes, I feel like we've defended ourselves rather well.
I feel like I'd love somebody
mindset.
Right. Coaches,
it's like a debate.
If you're out there and you believe that mindset is not how we've painted it, you are welcome to come onto our podcast as a guest. And bear in mind, everything we do at Unveil is about nervous system safety. So you are not coming into a lion's den. We really want to hear your opinion. If you feel like mindset is something that can on its own transform your life.
Interesting.
And actually, we've got some friends, and one of the guests that we have confirmed for our upcoming, one of our upcoming guest spots, does a lot of mindset stuff, but they're also good at knowing when they're not the coach for the person, because there's other stuff involved. And that's the key, coaches, if you're listening as a coach. It's about knowing where your remit ends, because otherwise the client will feel like they're not doing it well enough. And as all of you good coaches will know, clients want to please their coaches. They really want to do it for you because they're fawning with you just as much as they fawned when they were in survival response way back when. Yep.
Awesome. That was a beautiful episode. Like, good. I'm really happy.
Yeah. I'm surprised we got through that. When we started recording, I thought we're going to get 5 minutes in and we're going to go, no, let's just do this tomorrow.
Well, and I'm glad we did. I'm glad we continued.
Me too.
My lovely audience, thank you for bearing with my recuperation self as I am now. Next week, I will be much more chipper.
Teeny tiny violin playing a song.
Teeny tiny violin. Oh, yes. Thank you so much. But for now...
Oh no, quickly. There's one more thing that I want to say. So the thing about the workshop, if you want to register this, it's all of this and more, and you can ask us questions and get guidance. And I don't even know what we're doing anymore because I'm just putting everything in there. I'm kind of basically making it a 2-day experience of this type of medicine. So if that's what you're interested in, and just to say, it is in PST. So I'm going to be in LA by this point. So we will be on LA time. The replays will be available for 7 days after the event. If you are in the UK, in anywhere else in the world, to be honest, and the time zones phones don't work, there is an application form. No, there's a questionnaire once you've purchased your ticket, and you can submit questions anyway, even if you're not going to be there. We are trying to include as many people as possible, and we will try and answer your question, even if you're not there. If you have a burning question that relates to the science of integrative transformation and your nervous system. And if you're interested in that, tickets are available now, as are tickets for power sessions with Brace and myself, which are limited. We are only handing out about 20 of these, as opposed to the workshop, which is fairly unlimited. So if you are interested, go to unveilenterprises.com/workshop. The other thing that I would like to say to people is that we keep dropping hints to our transformational healing retreat, which is the first course that's going to be launched from...
I didn't get that.
Wow, Siri didn't understand. Told you she was American. Did you hear her American voice there? She's turned American. And anyone who wasn't here last week, my Siri has like changed gender and nationality. So we keep talking about the online transformational healing retreat. We keep dropping little modules and free stuff everywhere. If you are interested, it's going to be 3 months of you going on an internal journey where you get to examine all of this for yourself. Awareness, somatics, emotional embodiment are all going in there. I've reframed module 5 to put more awareness and emotional embodiment in, but so is inner child work, parts work, empty chair technique. We're throwing it all in. Like it's literally a really good opportunity for you to do this journey yourself. If all of this has made no sense, that might be the course for you. It will be launching end of June 2022 this year, but you can register your interest now. And there is now a registration page. There's no obligation. It's just we'll email you when the course is live. And that's at unveilenterprises.com/academy.
Boom, boom, boom. Love it.
And all of these links will be in the show notes at your lovely players, on our podcast page, in YouTube, and anywhere else I can put them. And in Instagram. Come, spend some time with us, please, people. We really want to see you there.
I'd love it. Come, be there or be square. Awesome. All right, my friends. For now, my name is Brace Harris.
And my name is Victoria Fenton.
And we are
Unveil.
Stay informed with all things Unveil. Sign up for the newsletter at unveilenterprises.com/sign up.